So welcome to the last week of this program. Today we're going to talk about both influencer marketing and artificial intelligence. And they may seem like two very different topics. In some regards, they are different. But what both of them reflect is something that you've already learned over the course of this program, is that it's really, really, really important to create original, helpful content that leaves your audience feeling like they've had a satisfying experience. And oh, by the way, there's more than one approach to help you get there. Now, the bad news, as I think you may or may not have learned already, but I believe you have, at least that's one of the points that we've been emphasizing, is that creating great content is hard. I don't want to trivialize that. In fact, there's a wonderful movie called League of Their Own, and it's about the women who went to play baseball during World War II when the men were off, fighting in the war. And the all-star catcher for one of the women's teams says, this is hard. And the manager says, well, it's supposed to be hard. If it wasn't hard, everyone would do it. The hard, that's what makes it great. Well, the same is true with content creation. It is hard. You hopefully are good at it. If you are not good at it, you still need great content to be successful in social media marketing. So a lot of social media marketers start looking for shortcuts. Is there an easier way to do this? And one of the paths that they can choose is to get involved in influencer marketing. And the other path that they can choose is to use artificial intelligence to help them create great content. And these are supposed to be easier than creating the great content yourself. They're supposed to be, but not necessarily, because what people will learn, and what I want to teach you today, is that, pardon me, these are hard too. And I want to show you how you can be successful if you use influencer marketing or if you use AI so that you can be more successful. But at the end of the day, if you can create great content yourself, that works too. So these are three different paths that can get you to the same destination. So let's start with influencer marketing. It's been around the longest. AI has only come out of left field in the last, actually less than 2 years. It's started in November of 2022. So we're going to go to influencer marketing first, because it's been around longer. Now, the first thing that you need to know, and the first thing that you'll learn in influencer marketing, is that the hardest part is finding the right influencers to work with. And you would think that, wait, that's the hardest part? That's easy. They're everywhere. Boy, there are millions of them worldwide. There are tens of thousands of them in the Middle East and North Africa. And why is that so hard? And the answer is because a lot of influencers, and by a lot of there are estimates of anywhere north of 40% of influencers are only in it for the money. And in order to inflate their worth so that they can get more money for the content that they create as part of an influencer marketing campaign, they use what is called fake followers. And what that means is, if you're going to find the right influencer, you've got to check their audience quality, and their engagement authenticity. Because otherwise you're paying money for, well, fraud is, I think, the short answer to that. So the other thing that you need to do, and this is going to help you figure out why fraud is so prevalent and why so few social media marketers have figured out how to identify fraud, is you may need to change the model of how you think media works. I know that this is like, wait, where did that come from? And the answer is, well, this is maybe one of the more academic parts of this class, but you know what? The academics have been wrestling with this issue for a long, long time. And one of the things that we've come to recognize is that there is a model of how media works that was created by a professor, Harold Laswell of Yale University. And a lot of people still use the Laswell model to say, this is the way media works, so what do I need to do? And Laswell's model was actually just a sentence long. It was like, who says what, in which channel, to whom, with what effect. So that gives you 5 things that you need to focus on. Who's on camera? Who's your spokesperson? What are they saying? What's their message? Which channel are you communicating in? Is it TikTok or Instagram or YouTube, or what channel are you using? To whom? Who is your audience? And what's the effect? What happens afterwards? Okay. And so a lot of social media marketers are still using this model. What they do not know, because very few social media marketers study history. Why? Who'd want to study history? What can we learn from history? Well, the answer is that this model was created in 1939, before World War II, when the media world was radically different than the one we're in today. And part of the reason that we don't study Laswell's model deeper is because for a long time it was declared a top secret. Why? Because it was created by an agency of the United States government that was studying propaganda by the Germans for wartime communication. Ooh. Wait, time out. And we're still using this today for business purposes or for, government agencies? It gets a little icky to know that the model that many people are still using without examination is a model of how propaganda works. And oh, by the way, they definitely don't dig into how it got applied in the 1940s in the United States during World War II. The government tested this methodology. And they would test it by coming up with slogans like, help us win the war, buy war bonds. And they would have, a general deliver that message. And sometimes they would do it speaking. Sometimes it would happen as a movie trailer at the movies. Sometimes it was a radio broadcast, wherever. And one of the things that they would test is, okay, when the general says, help us win the war, buy war bonds, we don't sell very many war bonds. And the ones that we sell are generally only to men. That's not very effective, is it? So in testing this model, they then would change their message and change the person delivering it. And what they would try out as an alternative is they would get what is called a gold star mother This is a mother who had lost her son already in the war, who would say, instead of help us win the war by bonds, she would say, help us win the war and bring the boys home. And all of a sudden, sales of war bonds went way up. And oh, by the way, a lot more women were buying war bonds. So that's why they kept this a secret. They were testing it on Americans. America's government was testing it on American citizens to find out what propaganda worked better in World War II. Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's not something that everyone wants you to know about. But that's what happened. And it's was declassified. So what I'm sharing with you is no longer a government secret. This is just history that people don't know about very much. It was declassified in 1948, and the paper that it was published under is called The Structure and Function of Communication in Society, which is such a long and boring topic or title. That's why very few people read it. All right. So again, one of the things that we need to do, particularly when we approach influencer marketing, is understand that this is a model of the way media was supposed to work back in the 1940s. This is not the 1940s anymore, is it? Well, it also turns out it may not have worked that way in the 1940s. There was some evidence that it might work that way, but there was a second set of research being conducted at the very same time in the 1940s, but by a different professor. This professor was Paul Lazarsfeld. He was a professor at Columbia University in New York City. And he and a couple of his graduate students were doing a study in Ohio, which is where Matt Bailey is from. That's why I like teasing Matt about these things. And they were looking at how people made up their mind during presidential campaigns in 1940 and 1944. And what they found, which was a surprise to them at the time, was that everyone assumed that it was the newspapers and the radio that were transmitting mass messages to a mass audience, so mass media is what was working. And what they discovered was, well, actually, no, that's not actually what's happening. Some people, not all, some people were paying attention to what was being said in the mass media about political campaigns. And then those people were turning around and talking with their neighbors in a more informal situation, over the backyard fence, while they were at a coffee shop, whatever. And so there was a two-step process. Some people were paying attention and then relaying that information in a second step. But when they relayed that information in the second step, something interesting happened. They would then add their opinion. Here's what I think about what I've just read or heard. Now, that's a very different model of communication. And it's one that I learned about because I'm a history major. And I used, when I wrote my book about YouTube and video marketing, which was published a long time ago, back in 2011. And what I said was, this two-step process begins to explain something people don't understand. But by the way, it happens to be critical to success in influencer marketing. And if there is a two-step process, if you can pitch an influencer your story, or an idea for a story, or you hire them to create a video for your brand, that influencer has a decision to make. If I'm only in it for the money, then fine, sure, I'll take your money and I'll just throw that video out there and hopefully things happen. But the better ones, the ones who actually have more influence, think about it first. And they go, if I talk about your brand with my audience, with my followers, with the people in my social media network, they may think I've been bought. They may think I'm just saying this because I've been paid. So I got to think about this first. Is this brand suitable? Is this a brand that I would actually use? In other words, it's a two-step process because they're not only just sharing the information, they know they are sharing their influence as well, and they could put their influence at risk if people think, you're telling me to do that? You're telling me this is good? Okay, maybe I'm not going to listen to you so closely anymore. So that's a very different model, but that is the model that is more likely to lead you to success in social media marketing. Now, interestingly enough, I wrote my book a long time ago, 2011. In 2022, not so long ago, TikTok did some research. TikTok. I was writing my book about YouTube. And TikTok said, you know what? We found this strange looping model of how people make decisions. First of all, they have to discover the video. And then, you know what? They make a decision, and their people who follow them, if they agree with their decision, might then actually purchase the product that people are talking about in that video. Yeah. And I'd like to claim this is my model, but it's not my model. This is actually Lazarsfeld's model. It's the two-step flow model. And that's what you need to understand before you start looking for the right influencer. Not just the one that claims to have lots of followers, but the one that actually has real influence to get people who follow them to follow them. Now, how do you then figure out how to apply this? Well, this is a variation on the old Laswell questions. Laswell's model is propaganda. This is a model that may be more relevant for influencer marketing. And it's not who are you talking to? You'll get to that eventually, but who are the right influencers to talk to who have an audience that I want to reach? It's a very different question. And then, oh, by the way, if I'm creating video content, will people even watch it? Or will they start to watch it and go, this is propaganda, I'm out of here. And when they finish watching it, if you can get them to watch it, are they willing to share it with their network? I know this is a hard thing to do. This is a network upon network upon network. That's the way the world works. You hear something, you pass it on to someone else. They think about it around, they pass it on to someone else. Yeah, that's not mass media. But that's the world we live in today. So the channel can be, well, sources of influence as well as information. And what do I mean by that? Since some of this can be done by word of mouth, person to person, that's not a media. But that's the way some of this information is passed along. So you need to look at the channels in a broader context. Channels can be what we think of as, YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, whatever. Or channels can be people. who have a lot of influence. And one of the interesting things that I shared with you in the last class that I taught you is that some of those people have YouTube channels and Instagram accounts and TikTok accounts. And yeah, they're multi-channel. And if they have influence, all of a sudden you're not getting hung up on which channel should I be on. It's like, which influencer is going to take this message in a lot of different ways, a lot of different places. Then it's really important to understand that you want to understand that influencer's audience. Why? You're not trying to generally influence random people. You're trying to normally influence a group of people to take a particular action. And they may not all be, quote, in the market for your product. They may not all be ready to, I don't know, get a shot for COVID, whatever the mission that you're on or the message you're trying to communicate. But who's in that audience matters. And then measuring your results. Oh, we're gonna spend some time on that, because far too many social media marketers think that the number of views that their video get is the right metric. And I'm going to show you in this session why that's a vanity metric. So let me just help you on your path. It's hard to find who are the right influencers that you should be working with. And what I can tell you is that at last count, there were 18,900 global firms that said, I can help you, just hire my firm and I'll go find those influencers for you. Okay. How do you pick and choose among all of those? Well, let me give you my biased recommendation. Why is it biased? Because I teach for the New Media Academy. By the way, one of the other things that the New Media Academy does, beyond providing courses like this one, is they work with a group of influencers. Oh, by the way, influencers who've all been students in this class. Yeah, only they took the class back in 2020 or 2021. In other words, they took the class before we started teaching about influencer marketing and AI, but we were teaching them how to create content even back then, and they're really good at it. So whether you look at Ahmed or Metha or Saif, guess what? We have Emirati influencers who can get you where you want to go. And let me just say, the latest data on Ahmed was he's got 649,000 followers. Well, when he started this course, I think he had about 60,000. So he had about 1/10 of what he has now. Metha, on the other hand, when she started, had 4,000 followers, and she now has 624,000. And Saif, I actually don't remember where he started, but the point is he's got 500,000 now. So what all of these students of the New Media Academy learned and have put to use is the kind of things that, may help you get where you want to go. Now, if you want to do this yourself, and that's fine too, you don't have to use New Media Academy influencers. This is not a requirement. That's just a suggestion, a biased suggestion on my part, because they're my students and I feel loyalty to my students. Okay, fine. Total disclosure. But let's say you want to go off and do it yourself. I want to just double check, because you know what? That's just who you are, and that's fine. Let me give you some help. There is a tool out there called Hype Auditor, and they have a new version of it called Hype Auditor Discovery. And oh, by the way, since I know these people and I've worked with them in the past, I said, I've got students, I'm teaching a course. And they said, oh, well, we'll let them try our new tool for free to come up with their first 15 reports. All they have to do is sign up at the link, and you're going to get this slide deck after the presentation. So click on the link and just send an email to Nick, who is my contact at Hype Auditor, and say, look, can you activate my Hype Auditor account? And then here's what it will do. It will let you say, okay, I'm looking for an influencer who has influence in, I don't know, this industry or this category or this geography. And I'm really interested if they've got a strong presence on this channel. And by the way, can you just double check they don't have a lot of fake followers? And it turns out fake followers you can audit and find. How do you know it's a fake follower? Well, guess what? They probably don't do anything real. They probably all turned up at once. And you know what? There's a behavior pattern to a real follower that is really different than a behavior pattern to a fake follower. And this will give you a sort of an estimate like, well, okay, fine. If you want to work with that person, that's up to you. But realize that, let me just give you one example. If you want to go test this, test it on Elon Musk. The guy who bought Twitter and then turned it into X. Test him. He has a social media account. He has an X account. And the last time I just used him to sort of double check, okay, so how many fake followers do you have, Elon? It was 70%, 70%. 7 out of 10 of his followers are fake. So is he really as influential as he would like us all to believe? Yeah. Use the tool, figure it out, test people yourself, and you can use it for 15 reports for free. Just fill out the form and email Nick, okay? Now, the second thing that you need to focus on is, okay, so what's my message? And the answer is it's not your message anymore. It may be a message that you want the influencer to, use, but they may not just repeat it verbatim because, you know what? They know their audience better than you do. So what is really, really important to be successful at this stage is for you to create what is called a creative brief. Tell them, here's what I'm hoping to accomplish. Here's what I think the target audience is interested in. Oh, by the way, I don't want, any hateful messages. I'm not interested in that kind of approach. So these are my, objectives and boundaries. And then here's the hard part. Now you have to step back and let them do their thing. Why? Again, they became influencers the hard way. They probably built that audience over years, if they're real and they're not fake. And they know that audience pretty well. They know what that audience is willing to think about or do or consider or, okay, fine. And you've got to let them, once you've selected them and given them your brief, do their magic. By the way, the photograph here is the photograph I think I showed you in our previous class of Fatima, who plays the cello in the middle of the desert to get people to go visit the undiscovered gems during the world's coolest winter campaign in 2020 during the pandemic. And yeah, guess what? I wouldn't have said, oh yeah, play your cello, because she's an opera singer. I would have thought of her as an opera singer. I didn't realize, oh, by the way, she plays the cello too. So again, just give them a little room, some breathing space. Let them do their magic. Now, how do you create a creative brief? Well, here's an outline. We're going to come back to this outline, so let me go through it now, but realize that, again, you're going to get these slides and you can come back and read this. What you want to do is you want to give them an overview. You know, here's what I think my brand stands for, what my values are, or what my customers might expect. Here's what I'm hoping to do with this new campaign that I'm working with you on. You know, here's my objective. I'm trying to lift brand awareness, or I'm trying to increase consideration for my brand, or actually I just want to drive engagement or clicks or increase conversions or sales. Whatever your goal is, let them know that. That's the overview. Then if there are some key messages, you know, share that with them too. Is there a hashtag you want them to use, or a search term that you want them to incorporate, or a particular message that you think will resonate? Let them know. Do you want them to use your logo or product somewhere in their content? Is there a particular audience segment you want them to focus on? Or if you're in the tourism industry, a specific location? Okay. Now, recognize that in the UAE, social media influencers have to be licensed by the National Media Council. So, you know, are you working with a licensed influencer? You know, that's important. And then be specific on your deliverables. Am I looking for one video or a series of videos? Do you want to upload this to one platform or several platforms? Is there a date on which this campaign is supposed to launch? Or is there a particular call to action that you want to include? Okay. Be as specific as you can in here, because it will help your influencers say, okay, if this person is ever going to work with me again, this is the outline of what they're looking for. Got it. And then don't try to micromanage them. Okay, that's the hard part. Now, what channel? Well, let me tell you what other influencer marketers are using. They're using TikTok. Surprise. They're using Instagram. Oh, are you shocked? Well, actually, it used to be Instagram used to be number one. TikTok has passed Instagram since I've been teaching this class. In 2020, Instagram was number one. Now it's number two. Oh, by the way, YouTube is still number three. It was then, it still is. Facebook is number four. Okay, so, you know, different countries, that's Facebook has more or less, but, you know, particularly in your part of the world, you know, Facebook falls to number four. Okay, there are others. Twitch. There is Snapchat. There is, yeah, there are even some people who are still using X, whatever. And then this is the secret I want to share with you. When you pick your influencer, do not assume that the influencer only works in one channel. Now, I want to share with you Nusir. And Nusir, by the way, went to Harvard University here in the Boston area before he went back to his home in Palestine. And one of the things that he did while creating Nas Daily was to create 1,000 videos, one a day for 1,000 days, and uploading them to Facebook. Why? Well, in the United States, Facebook was a little bigger back in 2016 when he started, so that's where he started. So there's still a lot of people out there that say, oh, Nas Daily, yeah. He's on Facebook. Well, the answer is yes, he is on Facebook. That's where he started. That's where he started creating 1,000 videos, one a day for 1,000 days. He almost quit, by the way, halfway through because that's pretty exhausting. But he broke through. He connected with his audience. He's wildly successful today. How successful? Well, he's got about 110 people working for him now. He's relocated to Dubai. Yeah, he's got 60 million followers worldwide. And by the way, some of them are on Facebook, 22.7 million of them. But a bunch are on YouTube, 13.2 million of them, and he only started uploading videos to YouTube a couple of years ago. He's got 7.5 million viewers on TikTok and 4.5 million on Instagram. So if Nas is one of the influencers you start working with, guess what? Your message doesn't go out on Facebook, it goes out over several different channels. And it, oh, by the way, doesn't just go out throughout the UAE, it goes out throughout not just the Middle East and North Africa, but also, parts of Asia Pacific. He's even, I think, just opened a channel in the United States. So again, understand that the influencers are like little media companies. And they, in order to grow, don't want to limit themselves to wherever they started. They may start there, but they may grow. Now, what about their audience? What about their audience? Well, let's just say, for argument's sake, you're interested in tourism for Dubai. Why did I pick that topic? I don't know. I picked that topic 4 years ago. I guess I just stick with it. But one of the things that you can use is a tool called SparkToro. I think I mentioned this in one of the previous classes. If not, then let me mention it here. And SparkToro lets you say, okay, there is a group of people who search for Dubai each month. How many of them are there and who are they? Well, it turns out it can change from month to month, but it's somewhere between 446,000 and 654,000 people each month. All right, so your tourism industry has, ebbs and flows. And interestingly enough, among the places that they visit, if they're interested in Dubai, is visitdubai.com. That's one of the other websites they go to. Or they'll go to Emirates.com to check out what the airline has to say. And there are other keywords that they're searching for: the Dubai Mall or the Mall of the Emirates, visitor rules, tourist rules, malls in Dubai, Dubai tourism rules. Yeah, I just read a story last week that said 9.3 million international visitors have come to Dubai in the first 6 months of 2024. Whoa. And who are these people who are doing these searches? Well, surprise, 55.7% are male. Why does it tilt that heavily towards the males? Well, there's a lot of business people who will come here on trips. And while they're there, it's like, okay, while I'm here, what else can I see? But it also turns out there's a lot of families. So there's a lot of females. 27.9% will identify as female. But whoa. 14.2% say not available. What's going on there? Who are those people? Well, it turns out that the tool, SparkToro, is getting its information on demographics from, well, among other places, LinkedIn. And it turns out not everyone who has a LinkedIn profile reveals their gender. Okay. But if you read their profile and you look at their information, it's like, oh, she may not be revealing her gender, but she looks like a she. And so what's interesting is it turns out there are a lot of women who do not want to be harassed in social media, and that's a problem, and that happens, who just don't disclose their gender. So interestingly enough, based on, my experience, yeah, 55.7% are male, 27.9% are female, and I have a very strong belief that the vast majority of the 14.2% who aren't revealing their gender are probably women too. And then there's the 2.2% who are either non-binary or other. Okay, fine. But you know how long that took me to get this information? This took me less than a minute. And oh, by the way, SparkToro gives you a free set of trials. I think you can do up to about 50 searches before they say, would you please like to subscribe to us on a monthly basis? That's pretty useful information. You begin to learn that, oh, by the way, among the influential sources of information are news media, like I'm not going to pronounce this correct. Khaleej Times? Is that how I pronounce that? Let's put it this way. One of your newspapers is among the influential sources of information. Why is it influential? By the way, it has an English version, so I can read it, even though I can't pronounce it, or I have trouble pronouncing it. But I can read the stories there. I could read about the 9.3 million, international tourists who came to Dubai in the first 6 months. That's where I get my information. So here's what's also fun. The same tool, SparkToro, says, okay, let's say you want to work social media accounts. Who has influence for people who are searching for Dubai? And they'll give you what they call high affinity accounts. In other words, where a high percentage of people who go there, talk about Dubai in their social media posts. And one of those is Visit Dubai, surprise, or the Dubai Mall, or the Gulf News, another one of your newspapers, or Expo City Dubai. Interestingly enough, the person who handles media there used to be one of the instructors for the New Media Academy back in 2020, or Time Out Dubai. So again, you begin to say, oh, I want to build a influencer marketing campaign. This is more than just hiring a couple of so-called influencers. This is also, how do I pitch my story to the Gulf News in a way that they might want to cover it? Okay, very interesting. Now, what effect are you trying to get? How are you going to measure your success? And let me tell you, please, don't use views. I know. Everyone uses views. How many views did your videos get? That's one of the first questions you'll be asked. All right, so you need to have an answer. Here's how many views we got. This is why views is a vanity metric. What is a view? It turns out you have a different definition of a view depending on the social media platform you're working with. For TikTok, a view is as soon as a video starts playing, instantaneously. That's a view. For Instagram, the video has to play 3 seconds. That's a view. And for YouTube, the video has to play 30 seconds before it's counted as a view. So guess what? A view is not a view is not a view. And if you're measuring your success in views, it's like You're mixing your currency. You know, a dirham is not worth $1. So which currency are you using to measure your success in? That's why I call these vanity metrics. Now, even more out of touch is reach and impressions. Let me tell you why reach is problematic. Each of these platforms will give you reach numbers. Okay. But if you go across platforms, one of the things that we've learned about people in the UAE is they have, on average, 10.5 social media accounts. So if they see something that you've done on one platform and then see it again on a second and see it in on a third, you didn't just reach 3 people. You reached one person 3 times. That's why reach and frequency numbers are hard to calculate because, pardon me, everyone's measuring separately and there's no common source for that data, which is also why impressions is another one of these vanity metrics. Why? What is an impression? Well, again, different platforms will define it in different ways, but some of the platforms are saying if 2 pixels show in your feed, that was an impression. But I wasn't watching the video. I was just seeing the top of the video while I was reading something above it. Yeah, fine. But I'm sorry, that's an impression. So again, be careful what you're measuring. Some of this is not real. Some of it is as fake as the fake followers that you have to deal with. So what matters? Well, what matters is when people are done watching that video, what do they do next? And that can be any number of things, depending on the nature of your campaign. Are you trying to change their mind? Are you trying to get them to act in a particular way? And so guess what? One of the things that you may want to track is, okay, have I collected their email address? Did they click on a link? And oh, by the way, Instagram doesn't let you put links in your videos that you can click on and go to a website because they don't want people leaving their walled garden. Okay. YouTube's a little better. They'll let you put a link in the description. And if you use that link, one of the things that I would recommend is put it through Google's campaign URL builder tool. It's free, but it will append the link where you want to take them to a particular, let's say, website with some tracking code. They're called parameters, so that in your Google Analytics, you can say, oh, I see, this person came from the 3rd video from the 4th influencer. So I know not only which influencer brought me the traffic, but which one of that influencer's videos brought me that traffic. Yeah, now you're measuring. Now you're measuring. So let me just share a quick case study with you. And I mentioned this during the class that I taught on creating content. This is a case study that blows me away. This is amazing. I've told you about the world's coolest winter campaign. Okay. Well, in the second iteration, in the second year of the world's coolest winter, there was a companion campaign that got launched. It was called the Warm Winter campaign. And where the coolest winter was trying to get tourists to come to the UAE and discover these cool places they could go to, or to get people who already lived in the UAE to go out to a different emirate that they hadn't visited before and discover some interesting places. The warm winter said, look, not everyone's going to be able to come here. There are refugees in particularly Syria, but also in other parts of the Middle East and North Africa, who are going to have a really cold winter unless we can raise some money to keep them warm. And the person who got recruited to be part of this campaign was an influencer. And his name is Hassan, but he's normally known as Abu Fla because that's his handle on his YouTube channel. And if you are familiar with Abu Fla, you'll say, wait a second, isn't he a gaming influencer? Isn't he's telling people how to get to the next level in a video game? How does that connect him to refugees in the Middle East and North Africa? And the answer is that's his other passion. People are not one-dimensional. And he partnered with United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees and also with the Mohammed bin Rashid Al Maktoum Global Initiatives to say, what can we do together to basically help people stay warm this winter? And what did he bring to the table? Well, he has 27 million subscribers, 27 million on YouTube. And his videos have gotten a total of 3.8 billion views. So yeah, you want somebody like that at your table. And then they wrestled with, okay, so what is it we're going to say? What's our message? And they had a brainstorming session. And they realized that if they came up with the typical propaganda, this is a good cause, you should donate to it. It's like, oh, come on. That's gonna get people to donate. So instead of that, they said, let's come up with something totally unique that's never been done before. We're going to take Abu Fla. We're going to lock him up in a glass box near the Burj Khalifa. And we're going to say he's going to run a live stream broadcast on YouTube from this glass box. And he's not coming out of here until he raises 10 million American dollars. It's different. And oh, by the way, the location, boy, that's hard to ignore. And wow, okay. In other words, the message is powerful because it's unique. And what was the channel? Well, the channel happened to be YouTube. How long did it take him to raise the $10 million? Well, 268 hours, 14 minutes, and 20 seconds, if you are counting, which, oh, by the way, broke a Guinness World Record for the longest live stream. Longest. And he also got, at one point in time, 698,000 viewers, which turns out to be the most viewers for a charity donation live stream on YouTube. Yeah, from Dubai. He broke 2 Guinness World Records. Now, if we were going to measure success in views, or in impressions, or in reach, yay! But you know what? Those are vanity metrics. What did he really do? Well, he was trying to raise money to help refugees. How many of those are there in the Middle East and North Africa? Well, about 3.8 million. Are they going to watch the live stream? No, they're probably not going to watch the live stream. That's just not something that is probably going to happen. But let me tell you who was initially watching the live stream. A bunch of other influencers. Omar and Joe and Khaled and Ali and They said, how can we help? And some of them joined Abu Fla in his glass box. Why? Because I don't know about you, but it's pretty hard to broadcast 24 hours straight. At some point, you need sleep. And so they started working in shifts to keep that live stream going. And others would take it and add to it with their own video content. In other words, this started rippling. This is what I mean by that two-step process. And here's what the ripple accomplished. They didn't just raise $10 million. That was their goal. They raised $11 million. And if you want to convert that to dirhams, I think the current exchange rate, it's a little more than 4 times that in dirhams. And here's what blew me away is, where did those donations come from? 120 different countries. And they came from 155,000 different donors. Real money, real money. And how did the real money impact things? They were able to provide blankets and tents and things to help people stay warm in the winter to 110,000 families in the Arab region. Now, that's what measuring success is really all about. Views, nice, but a vanity. Money that feeds hungry people, that's the kind of metric that matters. So here's the activity that I'm going to give you for this first section. And we all have activities. And oh, by the way, I realize this activity is going to be hard to pull off between now and when you present your presentation on Wednesday or Thursday. So I get it. This is a little bit of a stretch. Fine. But let's say you had to create a creative brief for an influencer or for a group of influencers. And you wanted them to create videos around, I don't know, let's just say Black Friday, which is coming up. And it's worth knowing that although Black Friday is a specific day, and it is celebrated in Dubai just like it is in the United States, there's actually a period of time ahead of time, and there's certainly a period of time during it, and there's actually some shopping that takes place afterwards. In other words, there's a before, a during, and an after. And it turns out that the before, during, and after also corresponds with different segments of target audiences. There are the people who do all their planning ahead of time and shop in advance. I don't know if you know them. My wife tends to be one of those. I'm not that target demographic, but being married to one, I get it. She's always planning ahead. I'm the last minute person. I'm there in that later cohort. And then there's always that group of people that, I forgot the holiday. What should I do now? Yeah. We've all met them. We won't name names, but you know who they are. And here's what I'd like you to do. I want you to put together a creative brief. And you can either use the slide on slide 14, where I outline here's what ought to be in your creative brief. Feel free to use that. I put it together. I think it's a good outline. Or if you're interested, Meltwater has a free template, how to write an influencer brief that works. Click on the link when you get the slides. It will give you the template and you can fill out the template. Or it turns out Aspire also has a free template, and it's called What to Include in an Influencer Brief. Click on that, get the template, fill out the brief. And why am I giving you templates as an option? Because time is short, and I understand that between now and Wednesday or Thursday, you're going to be mostly focused on your presentation. So hopefully this will help you get where you need to go in time. Now, that brings us to the second half of this presentation, the one that Yasmin told you about. We're going to talk about the AI video generator tools. And before we go there, let me just find out, when do we pause for the prayer break?
We can take the break now?
Okay, that's a good time.
Yeah.
Or before we go to the break, let me just ask quickly, are there any questions over influencer marketing before we go to the break? Anything top of mind now? Otherwise, we'll go to the break and we'll come back. I get from Razan, all good, thank you. All right, then let's take the prayer break and I'll catch you, what, 15, 20 minutes?
Yeah, 20 minutes.
All right.
Okay, thank you. Hello, Greg.
Hi, how are you?
I'm fine. Hello.
So you're out of your car. That's good.
Yeah, from the beginning from the beginning of the session.
Oh, good.
Yeah, because I drive my kids to the summer camp for 3 hours. I have
Ah,
to stay with them there. Yeah, summer vacations.
oh, I
Yeah.
understand. I understand. We had our grandchildren in for a week.
Oh,
Uh, and my wife likes to call it Nana Camp. Um, so they get to visit their grandma and their grandpa for a week, and we go on a whale watch, and we go to children's theater. We have a wonderful time on Cape Cod.
yeah, great. My kids will have this Nana summer next week, inshallah. We are going to Egypt. Yeah.
Good,
Yeah.
good.
Hi, everyone. Are we back? Can you open the cameras, please? We need to know that you are here. I'll just send a reminder. Hello, are we here all? Please open your cameras so that we can know that you are here and we can start. Yes, yes, thank you. Okay, okay, Greg.
All right. Well, this is the second half of today's class. We're going to talk about artificial intelligence, which again is an alternative path to get you where you want to go. And one of the things that I think we need to understand is that we're probably already using artificial intelligence one way or another. Sometimes we're aware of it, sometimes we aren't. So, for example, 80% of advertisers are already using one of the AI-powered Google Ads products. And sometimes they realize that, and sometimes it's just I'm setting the goals of my video campaign, and my goal is to increase awareness and consideration. And they click on that button, and they don't realize they're using artificial intelligence, but they are. But whether you know it or not, the interesting thing that people are already learning is that there's some things that the artificial intelligence enables advertisers to do that they hadn't done before. Now, why is this? Well, part of it is because YouTube is a little harder to use than some of the other social media platforms. This is one where if you had spent time and learn the nuances, these were all things that humans could have done, but basically YouTube was always at the bottom of the to-do list. And it always seems simpler to do Instagram or TikTok. Oh yeah, that's easy, I can do that. So, okay, so AI could enable you to do things that you probably could have done yourself, but just weren't. And that can give you a false sense of, once you start using them, that, oh, wow, this is powerful. Look what I can do. And that can give you a false sense of your minor role and the AI's major role in what was happening. Big mistake. Big mistake. Because one of the things that I hope I can teach you today, and I know we're only going to compress this within, a short period of time, is that AI can do some things faster than we can, which is why I'm going to encourage you to test it and try it and see what it does. But there's some other fundamental things that AI can't do very well, and you need to know what those limitations are. And then here's the funny thing. There's some things that AI can do if you know what to ask it to do. That's the hard part, figuring out those three things. AI can do some things, it can't do other things, but it could do some things if it's got somebody driving the process to take it where you wouldn't necessarily expect it to go. So I want to go through each one of those steps. AI can't see the big picture for your organization. Don't count on it for that, please. But it can help you do some pretty intelligent things, and I'll show you an example. AI can't be creative. I know this is the funny thing. I'm going to ask you to test some tools and see what it can or can't do. But at the end of the day, if you prompt it to do creative things, it can surprise you. If you prompt it to, I don't know, create propaganda, it can probably do that too, but boy, yag, who wants it? And last but not least, AI, believe it or not, cannot empathize with people. It has a big emotional gap. It's really wicked smart, as they like to say over here in New England. But you know what? You have to bring something to the table, which is an understanding of the emotional side of your target audience. So let's go through each one of those. Let's start off with the big picture. Now, a big picture is important. You need somebody somewhere in your organization, and sometimes it's the creative people, sometimes it's you, who can say, you know what, this is an idea that I think is going to work. This is a strategy, this is a creative concept I think will help us accomplish what we want to accomplish. Okay, once you've come up with a creative idea, you, human, then you can go to your AI tools and they can accomplish some pretty amazing things. Let me share a case study that gives you an example. And oh, by the way, it comes from the country that Heptija, you're headed to next week, Egypt. So here's my Egypt case study.
The tourism authority. Yes, I heard about it.
Yeah, tourism. You know what? There's a lot of tourism in Egypt. And one of the interesting case studies that I read recently, and I want to share with you, is if you were to say, boy, it's really sunny in Egypt, everyone would go, duh. Yeah. What? Someone surprised about that? And the answer is, well, let's not take that for granted. Let's not just forget about that. But by the way, let's think about that for a second. Why is that a plus instead of just, yeah? It's sunny in Egypt. Got it. And the answer is compared to what? And there is a group in Egypt, the Egyptian Tourism Authority, or ETA, who basically said, guess what? We got more sunny days in Aswan than they have in London, England, or Glasgow, Scotland. In fact, almost 3 times as many, or in some cases more than 3 times as many. And if we're trying to promote tourism, I wonder how we leverage the fact that we've got sun and you don't. Now, would artificial intelligence tell you that? No, that's a human insight. And is it obvious? Well, it is after I mention it, but apparently for a lot of years, it was so obvious nobody thought about it. But here's who thought about it. It was the chief executive officer of the Egyptian Tourism Authority. And he suddenly said, you know what? Our abundant sunshine is something that not every country is lucky enough to have. So we wanted to make that the star of our show. Wow. This is what they call in the United States the blinding flash of the obvious. Yeah, but not everyone harnesses this insight. So he said he understood that for the campaign to be impactful, they had to do more than just say, hey, we've got sun here in Egypt. Yeah, got that. But it's also the perfect destination for people in foggy, cloudy, rainy, snowy England and Scotland to come to. Why? Because your part of the world doesn't have as much sun as we do. And you know what? We all could use a little more sun in our life. So here's the brilliant campaign that they came up with that I want to share with you. They created a series of YouTube videos. And they worked with their agency, Universal Media Cairo. And they also worked with Google. And they decided to create a different series of ads that said, if it is raining where you are, here's why you should come to Egypt. But if it is snowing where you are, here's why you should come to Egypt. And they basically picked 6 different cities in the UK: Birmingham, London, Edinburgh, Liverpool, Newcastle, and Manchester. And then they created different weather conditions, and one for cloudy, one for drizzle, one for rainy, one for snow, one for just thunder. And if you want, you can click on the link to rainy and it will take you to this video, which basically says, if it is raining in, I don't know, Edinburgh, Scotland, here's why you should think about going to Egypt. Now, this is not propaganda. This is not mass media. This is not one message over a huge audience, which is the way most people still think. I've got to create one message for everybody. Well, no, I got, basically 6 different cities. And oh, by the way, 5 different weather conditions. Do the math, 5 times 6, that's 30 different ads. 30 different messages tailored to different weather in different locations. Okay, well, that's highly complex. Now, what do you do with that? Well, here's what they did. They then tapped into a website called the Open Weather Map. And they use technology to say, okay, so what is the weather in Edinburgh? Or the example I'm going to show you here, what is the weather right now in London? Oh, it's snowing in London? then here's what I want the technology to do for me. If it's snowing in London, then take one of the 30 ads, the one that's about snow in London, run that ad. Oh, by the way, don't run the other 29. And guess what? Technology can help you do that. Not only the technology to tap into the weather in the location where your target audience is, but then also the technology to show this ad, but not a whole bunch of others. Yeah. This is how you begin leveraging human insight with what the technology can do for you today. So how did that work? Well, even if it was only cloudy, and by the way, there's a lot of cloudy days in different cities around the UK. They were basically tapping into a mood. Guess what? Do you get moody? Well, actually, you may not have as many cloudy days in Dubai or wherever you are. But nevertheless, it turns out that impacts people's mood, and they were able to tap into that mood and basically show actually a variety of videos. Some were short, 6 seconds long. Some were longer. All of them, and you can click on the link to actually watch them if you're interested in. Basically say, boy, it's really cloudy where you are now. But you know what? We got lots of sun in Egypt. And then how did they measure results? Views? No. Impressions? No. Reach? No. They actually used search interest. Did people, after watching the video, go on to conduct a search about, I don't know, a holiday in Egypt? And again, Matt Bailey showed you in the very first class how much Google knows about which videos you're watching on YouTube. Yeah, but this is how they harness that. This is the upside to the scary downside that Matt was talking about. They basically saw if people in the right weather conditions saw the right message, basically highlighting why they might want to consider a holiday in Egypt, people started taking the first step. Well, let's do a little Google search and explore this idea. This is not an impulse buy. This is something I got to think about. I got to talk to my family about. I've got a plan. But guess what? That's the first step in the plan. And all of a sudden, things that you didn't think you could measure before, you can measure. Things that you didn't think were simple enough to basically run a mass media campaign, well, guess what? The technology enables you to do now. If you have the right insight, if you have the right imagination. Now, cool. I'm going to give you a second example. This is one where, guess what? AI can't be creative like you are. Yeah, it can do some really nifty things, but at the end of the day, if you do not have a big idea, whatever you come up with for your video is going to pass other people like a ship in the night because, that's like everything else I've seen. So how do you tap into what AI can do to deal with the fact that there are some things that AI can't do? And the answer is it can't do them without you directing it. And that brings me to one of the most overhyped technologies of the year. It comes from OpenAI. It's a product that they've talked about since February called Sora. And it apparently is going to let you just type in a few words and it's going to create the video for you. And then you can be creative. Or so goes the promise. Well, it's interesting. It got announced in February on the 15th. On the 16th, I signed up and I said, I'd like to test this. You know, hey, your Chat GPT product was pretty interesting. And I started incorporating that in the class that I was teaching at the New Media Academy within a week. So if you've got Sora, I want to check it out first to see if I want to show it to my students. And guess what? That was back in February. It is still not available for us normal people to test. But occasionally they will roll out a video, an example of, oh, look at what Sora can do. So the video that you can watch, and I put a link here so you can go watch it, is OpenAI Sora first short film, Airhead, which was created by Shy Kids. Who are Shy Kids? Well, Shy Kids is a Toronto, Canada-based production company. And you look at that and you think, oh, wow, that can do that for me. And the answer is, if you have the creativity that Shy Kids have. So when you watch the video, it is not clear what did the tool do? What did Shy Kids do? And what did Shy Kids do using the tool? Well, that's what you see in the video. So be careful. Be careful. There is a, well, it's part of what they call the hype cycle. I'm all excited because this is going to do that for me. And the answer is, well, maybe it will. And maybe it won't. It depends on what you ask it to do. And what do you ask it to do? So here's what I would like to do. You can't use Sora. I can't use Sora. But there are 5 tools out there that have gotten favorable reviews. So I'm not asking any of you to try out something that's gotten a lot of bad reviews. By the way, there's more than 100 AI video generators on the market today at last count. And I tried to count them, but I lost track somewhere around 111, okay? So I'm just going to ask you to try one of the top 5. One of them that has gotten a lot of good reviews is called InVideo AI. And oh, by the way, it's free. And that's one of the reasons why I'm assigning it, because you don't have to pay any money to try it out. And in order to try it out, what I would encourage you to do is to watch this video first, which is do this to make money from your first video on YouTube. In other words, it's somebody who tried out the tool and shows you what they were able to do with this. Okay, cool, fine. And it's supposed to help you create professional looking videos quickly. That's a benefit. And the free plan means that you're going to have a watermark on your video. It's going to show that it was used with the InVideo AI. Okay, fine. That's the trade-off for using the free version. If you pay for it down the road, then you can get it without the watermark. Yeah, fine, whatever. But this is one of the tools that I'd like you to consider trying out. Oh, by the way, in time for your presentation on Wednesday or Thursday. Oh, yeah, I know that's not much time, is it? Yeah, well, that's one of the reasons why I'm trying to structure this the way I am. That's why there's as much help information here as I can provide you. But guess what? A quick trial will teach us all something. How easy is this to learn to use? How quickly does it help me do something? Why is that important? I don't know. If you can plan something out for 6 months, then plan it out for 6 months. But a lot of us get stuck in a spot where the boss wants me to do this by Wednesday. Yeah. So Yeah. Guess what? Figure it out now, and you can figure out whether that's something that you want to use the next time you get sort of painted into a corner. Another tool that's gotten a lot of favorable reviews is called Pictory. And this is a little different than the previous tool. One of the things it will let you do is, let's say you've written an article or a blog post. So I've got, I don't know, hundreds of words of content, and I'd like to turn that into a video. And I'm going to use not just the text prompt that I type in, but I'm going to use something that I've written of some length and see what that does. Well, guess what? You're going to want to learn how to use it. And so watch AI Video Creation Made Easy, create videos in minutes with Pictory. All right, that's the quick how-to video. But this is your second option. You don't have to use all of them that I'm going to show you. I'd like you to use at least one of them. If you want to use a second, well, that's up to you. But that also means that you've got time in your hands, and you probably don't. I think all of you have day jobs. So I understand. Just pick one. That's all I'm asking for. A third one that you can pick from. This is an option. Now, this has gotten favorable reviews, just not as many as the first two, but that's okay. The reviews that it has gotten are all positive. It's called Runway, and since runway is also a word for, like, the part of the airport, they often will add the ML after runway so that you know that it's the video tool that you want and not the part of the airport where the planes are landing. And the ML, I think, is short for machine learning. Okay, fine, whatever. But Runway ML will also let you use this for free. Good way to test things. And it helps you to, I don't know, tap into some of their abilities to keep the process flowing. Just realize that the free tier has limitations. That's the way all of these tools are trying to come to market, to get you to try them for free. And if you like them, then you subscribe. Okay, fine. But there's a tutorial that you can watch. And it's Runway ML tutorial, how to use the best AI video generator in 2024. Who calls it the best AI video generator? Well, they do. They call themselves that. So, okay, fine, whatever. But nevertheless, check it out. Now, fourth option, Lumen 5. Also gets favorable reviews, not as many, but some. And it converts text into video content. Got it. All right. And there's a free version. It also has a watermark on it, but for, testing purposes, you don't care if there's a watermark. That's okay. Got it. Not a big trade-off. And if you want, here's what's unique about it. It's particularly good at doing voiceovers. Now, why would you want to do a voiceover? Well, in particularly your part of the world, not everyone speaks English. You might want a voiceover in Arabic, or you may want a voiceover in Hindi, whatever. And so the capability of taking your video and quickly using AI to create voiceovers, I don't know, if you want to check that out, if that helps you solve a problem, check it out. And the fifth and final option I want to give you is Capwing. And this is interesting because it's a collaborative tool. If you want to use it with several people on a team, that may be something that you want to examine. It also has a watermarked version on the free trial. Okay, fine. But there's also a tutorial, Capwing tutorial, how to use Capwing's online video editor. And you know what? It can do things like automatic subtitling, which can be particularly useful when creating YouTube videos. So five options. Now, one of the warnings that I gave you up front, I want to repeat it here. Whichever one of these five you test, recognize that no video tool, none, not Sora, not any of the five that I just shared with you, can empathize with people. How do people feel? How is this going to make them feel when they're done watching the video? There's been, by the way, some rumors that Runway ML got trained illegally by watching YouTube videos, where they could tell that this YouTube video got a lot of likes and shares and comments. So let's put it this way: that's for lawyers and courts to determine. But nevertheless, you know, AI itself cannot empathize with human beings. It just doesn't have an emotional side. It's all logic. All right. But you can still use it if you bring the emotion or the understanding of people's emotion to the table. So let me give you an example of that. One of the companies out there that you may not have heard of is called Mondelez International. And the reason you may not have heard of the company is it actually was only created in 2012. So this is why it's still relatively unknown in the world. It used to be known as the Kraft Foods Group, but they were spun off. They picked a new name, and this is the new name they picked. Okay, fine. So you may not have heard of the company, but you've probably heard of their brands. One of their brands is Cadbury Dairy Milk. Very popular in the UAE, by the way. Philadelphia cream cheese, also available in the UAE, or Oreo. Now, in the United States, we call them cookies. In the UK, they call them biscuits. But Oreo is one of their brands. All those brands are more than 100 years old. So this is one of those funny situations where maybe you've never heard of the company, but boy, do you know their brands. And a couple of years ago, I got hired along with a couple of my colleagues to train their marketing department. They have 400 people in their marketing department, and I was able to train 360 of them. I couldn't train the 40 who were in the People's Republic of China. It was behind a firewall. They weren't allowed to get to the classes via Zoom, so I had to subcontract with a fellow from Singapore to teach the Chinese part of the marketing team. But the other 360 took a variation on this course. And the problem that they were trying to solve back in 2019, so this was before COVID, I know the world changed in 2020, was they were trying to find ways to use technology to deliver their message in a way to their different audiences in a personalized way. All right, got it. So one of the things that I trained them to consider using was a tool that is still available. It was available back then too, called YouTube Director Mix. And what YouTube Director Mix uses machine learning to basically say, I want to serve up a different version of my content to different audiences. And what it did at the time was it would take text and images and sound, and basically it wasn't mixing video at the time, but it could mix the text, images, and sound, so that if you had an audience of, let's say one type of viewer, people who are into, I don't know, murder mysteries, so you could show them one version of your ad. But if you had another audience that, let's say, was really into sports, it would show them a different version of your ad. And that was pretty interesting technology, and I thought that was sort of the right solution, or at least I thought so at the time. Well, they tried that. And I'm embarrassed to say, but I want to share with you the bad news as well as the good. When they tried it, it didn't work. Because it turns out they got hung up in the, okay, how many audiences do we have? And once we said, oh, we've got 15 different target segments we want to go after, now let's go create 15 different content. It didn't work. It didn't work. It basically it conflicted with what the one would call the creativity that is necessary to drive a successful campaign. So they said, you know what? We've got this backwards. Thank you, instructor, for telling us about the technology. That's pretty cool, but you know what? We're going to reconfigure what you taught us, and we're going to put it in a different order. And we're going to start with the big idea first. We're going to go and make sure that we're empathizing with our audience before we then start thinking about how do we personalize this for 15 different segments. So this is their innovation, not the one I was teaching back in 2019. This is one where I learn lessons from my students. And I watched what they did, and they taught me an interesting lesson that I'm sharing with you. When they started with empathizing with their target audience, they took a situation like, oh, you know, everyone has to stay at home during the lockdown, during the pandemic. Well, just because you have to stay at home doesn't mean that you can't be playful. And that sort of tapped into an interesting, empathetic situation where they then tested it, and they started off with the test in the United States, but they found out the message wasn't limited to one geographic region of the world. They started rolling it out worldwide, and they found that, quote, stay home, stay playful, which was the key to their message. And again, you know, you can watch it if you want to, resonated around the world. Everybody who was feeling locked down at that point was also feeling, what do I do to keep life interesting? And then they used the Director Mix product to show different videos, not only ones that they had created, but ones that they had integrated into their campaign that were created by their customers. And oh, by the way, this is one of the things that YouTube does that, you know what, Instagram and TikTok don't do as well. You can clip parts of somebody else's YouTube video and make it part of your content. And that's not violating their intellectual property or their copyright. That's actually part of the sharing process in YouTube. And oh, by the way, the person who you clip gets credit for the fact that part of their video is getting watched, which is why people don't mind if you do it. In fact, they're excited if you do it. And then they took it to a whole nother level. And again, I got to give them credit for this. This is not like I was whispering in their ear and this is what they did. No, 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 no. These are the lessons they taught me that I hopefully can share with you. They took a big holiday in India, Diwali. And they said, okay, fine. Now, what do we empathize with? This is still during COVID. This is still during lockdown. You know what? Nobody is going to empathize with a big company that makes chocolate. Yeah, thank you. So if you talk about yourself, nobody cares. If you take this from what I call a propaganda point of view, nobody cares that chocolate companies are suffering through the pandemic. So what? What they focused on instead of themselves, they focused on the small shops in India that sold their chocolate, the retailer, the little guy. And they said, by the way, during the pandemic, the little guy has had a hard time. And if you're going to go get a chocolate bar for this holiday that's coming up so that you can share it with your friend, because that's part of what the holiday is all about, try to get it from a local retailer near you. Now, how many retailers were part of this campaign? Not 15. They had 1,800 retailers in 270 different, well, we would call them zip codes. They call them PIN codes, but let's put it this way, different neighborhoods in the country. That's the level of complexity that they let the technology take care of. And then what they basically did is they said, if somebody is going to YouTube to watch a video, what PIN code are they from? Where are they located? Oh, by the way, let's show them the version of our video that includes retailers in the PIN code near them. So when we say, look, local retailers have had a hard time, you might want to think about buying your Cadbury chocolate bar from somebody near you, they would show a retailer near them. Or actually, it would be several retailers near them, because a lot of these PIN codes, there were multiple retailers, and they would just show them several that the viewer could say, oh, yeah, all right, maybe I could do that. Well, what did they do? Well, the retailers who participated in this program, the 1,800 of them, doubled their sales. And oh, by the way, for the brand, oh, by the way, they sold 32% more chocolate than they were expecting to. Not by talking about themselves or the wonderfulness of our chocolate, but by empathizing with the people who were having a tough time selling chocolate during the pandemic. Now, that actually also translates into cold hard cash, money, dirhams, dollars, rupees, you pick it. And if they were measuring their success in views, something funny would have happened. They would have seen their views drop in the first half of 2023. It's like, oh my gosh, our views are going down. Oh, the campaign, it's a failure. Maybe, maybe not. Because what they also saw in the first half of 2023 was, oh, our ad revenue grew 18%. Wait a second, how can your views go down and your ad revenue go up? Well, the answer is if the content that you've created has a strong emotional, impact, guess what? The missing thing that most people are not measuring is it's not how many people see your video, it's how many people go out and buy your chocolate bar after they've watched your video. So again, don't get hung up on the wrong metric. Someone's going to ask you how many views do we get. You want to know that. But to the extent that you can, measure the right things. And the right things, by the way, in a lot of cases, or at least in this case, is so what did sales do? Now, as we mentioned at the beginning, as Yasmin and I discussed, here's your assignment. And the good news is your assignment is actually leads into the option that you have. But the assignment isn't the option that I'll talk about in a second. The assignment that you have for this class, what you can do between now and Wednesday or Thursday when you make your presentation. I think the last slide in your presentation is, by the way, did you create a video? Well, here's 5 tools. pick one of them. Don't use all 5. That's not what I'm asking you to do. You may want to try all 5 later, next week, whatever. That's up to you. Try one of the tools. And try to create a short video for your project. In other words, I don't know what your capstone project is going to be about. You do. That's what you bring to the table that the instructor can't. But take your assignment, think about it, try one of the tools and see what the tool does. And oh, by the way, evaluate it if it did what you hoped it would do or if it fell short. And by the way, if it falls short, you're not graded down. I can't even tell you what you should have produced. All right? Nobody can. What this is a learning experience. You're learning by doing. And one of the things you're going to learn is, yeah, I tried that tool and it surprised me, or it disappointed me, or whatever. I had to prompt it a couple of times. I had to revise it a couple of times before it finally got me where I want to go. And then here's what I really want you to learn. This is the real message of this course. The tool doesn't do your creativity for you. The tool doesn't do your empathy for you. The tool doesn't come up with your big picture for you. You have to bring that to the table. And then possibly, maybe, depending on the flexibility of the tool or the creativity of the tool, then maybe it will do something that your audience will respond to. Now, perfectly optional, because all I wanted you to do was to learn, oh, by the way, creating content is hard. Got it. So you may want to use the right influencers to create that content for you. Hopefully we taught you that in the first half. Or maybe there's a free video generator that uses AI that will get you there. Fine. If you find a free one, then you can consider paying for it on an ongoing basis. At the end of the day, whether you create it yourself, you use influencers, or you use an AI tool, what you want to do, one way or another, is have an impact on your audience that will generate real results. Not fake views, not fake engagement, real results. Now, if you have spare time, if you need permission and get it, if you don't need permission and want to share your comments, this is optional, not part of the course, not going to impact your grade. But if you want, I happen to be writing an article on this topic next month. And I've told my editor about this class, and my editor says, wow, it would be really great to get input on this because this is brand new, unexplored territory. Other people will want to know the outcome of these tests. Wow. You're out there. You're pioneers. You're learning stuff that frankly no one else has learned yet. I hope. So if you can share your insights, please do. Please do. And again, if you need to blur your identity, we can always call you a student at the New Media Academy, or we can describe you however you want to be described. And don't worry about hurting anybody's feelings. If I tried them and they were rotten, they were not ready for a prime time, that's fine too. I have no stake in the outcome here. What I'm telling you is if this is a test, this is only a test. Be honest. And with that, hopefully we've left enough time for any questions.
Yes, we have. Anyone have any questions?
If you have any questions about this session or even Greg's previous session that you may have any thoughts or questions about, you can ask them as well now. Or if you have any questions about the article as well, you can ask that as well.
By the way, just as I was learning lessons from the people at Mondelez International, I'm hoping to learn lessons from you. This is, I know, most concepts of education is what they call the sage on the stage. This is where I'm the expert, let me tell you the right things to do. Blah, blah, blah. Okay, that's one theory of education. Another theory of education, the one I actually agree to, is called the guide on the side. Yeah, I've done some things before. Yeah, I've learned some lessons. But you know what? All I can do is share my guidance with you. There's going to be things that you encounter that may be different than I've encountered. So that's a different form of education. But that's the theory that I subscribe to. So it's a little different, but I hope it empowers you. Because guess what? Not only can you learn from me, I can learn from you, and you can learn from each other. And oh, by the way, there have been 16 cohorts ahead of you that you can learn from. And by the way, we hope there's 16 cohorts after you who can learn from you. Yeah, this is an interesting process. This is a journey we're all on.
If you also have any questions about the upcoming presentation, you can ask that as well, because that will be on Wednesday. That starts on Wednesday. So let us know if you have any questions at all.
Well, I got one all good from Bashiri and one thank you very much from Amal. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, everyone. So if you don't have any more questions, we can let you go for the evening. And we'll see you again tomorrow for a math session on analytics. And then hopefully we will all come back together on Wednesday and start to watch your presentations. So if you have any questions in the meantime, just let us know. And I hope you have a wonderful evening. And inshallah, we'll see you tomorrow, same time. Thank you so much, Greg, for your session today as well.
Bye.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Goodbye, everybody.